we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder. And it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday. It is Thanksgiving Eve, and we have a lot to talk about on the show today. But before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/GSMCsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. And again, it is for the link, it's streamelements.com/GSMCsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment. So, with that, let's get right into what we are going to talk about today. So, we're going to start off the show by talking about something that Tom Brady has said recently, talking about today's game and how it's mediocre. So we'll get into that. Then in the second part of the show, we'll talk about some quarterbacks that have something to prove down the stretch here as we're waning down here in the regular season. There was an article that the NFL.com came out with, so I wanted to cover that and talk about the quarterbacks that they talked about in the article. Then we will preview the games for tomorrow. I'll give you what I'm leaning towards at the moment, but could be subject to change. And then we'll preview the rest of the games for the weekend. So there's going to be no show tomorrow. There's also going to be no show on Friday as well, and we'll be back on Monday. So no shows on Friday, no shows tomorrow. So yeah, that's why we're going to do all our picks right now. But they're all going to be, a lot of them could be subject to change, because injuries could pop up and things like that. So, but these Thanksgiving games are going to be tough. They really are. And I take pride in them because I've done very well on Thanksgiving. I did go 1-2 one year, but that's really it. I either go 2-1 or 3-0. And last couple of years, I've been very close to going 3-0 again, but the Giants backdoored last year. The Lions a couple of years ago did the same thing. So that wasn't the case. So we're trying to go 3-0. I don't think it's going to happen because these games are tough to pick this year. But I'm hoping for the best. So let's get right into the first topic, which is discussing Tom Brady's recent comments about the game today. Now, Tom Brady actually really hasn't been, part of any topics on the show since I started doing the football podcast. His name has been mentioned here and there, but, with him retiring last year, he hasn't really he hasn't been part of any of my segments here. So now this is a segment for him. He was talking to Stephen A., and he was saying how today's NFL, there's a lot of mediocrity. And one of his quotes was, and I pulled up an article with the quote from Yahoo Sports. He said how, I think there's a lot of mediocrity in today's NFL. I don't see the excellence that I saw in the past. I think the coaching isn't as good as it was. I don't think the development of young players is as good as it was. The rules have allowed a lot of bad habits to get into the actual performance of the game. So I just think the product, in my opinion, is less than what it's been. And I don't think... And he also said, I look at a lot of players like Ray Lewis and Rodney Harrison and Ronnie Lott and guys that impacted the game in a certain way. And every hit that they would have made would have been a penalty, he said. You hear coaches complaining about their own players being tackled, and why don't they talk to their player about how to protect himself? We used to work on the fundamentals of those things all the time. Now they're trying to be regulated all the time. And listen, I mean, I agree with what he says, but I feel like for a lot of people, they're going to look at him and say, well, you benefited from a lot of these things because, Tom Brady did complain a lot, if he didn't get a call his way or, if if there was a flag that should have been thrown, he'd be the first to run over to the ref and say, hey, well, what's the deal? There should have been a penalty, so I know a lot of people are probably going to, point fingers at him and say, you're kind of the reason for this. I mean, you look at the Tuck rule, way back when against the Raiders in that playoff game where it should have been a fumble, but it wasn't. And that kind of led to the Patriots winning. I think that was their first, that was Brady's first Super Bowl run. And obviously, the roughing the passer penalties, have gotten ridiculous over the years because some of them you're just like, that's clearly not roughing the passer. The flags have become a problem. The penalties become a problem in the NFL. And a lot of people, question the integrity of the game, because look at last year's Super Bowl. I mean, that was a relatively clean game all the way through. And towards the end, Juju Smith-Schuster gets held by James Bradbury, and they call the flag. And, a lot of people are like, you can't throw that flag in that situation. And people are like, well, if it's a flag, if it's a penalty, you got to throw the flag. But for me, I think, like, referees miss a lot of flags. And, the ones that they don't miss, they come in crucial moments. So you're wondering, like, why does that happen? And that, again, that's questioning the integrity of the game. And we saw that in the Super Bowl, the year before that, with the Rams and the Bengals. I mean, how many flags were thrown, when the Rams went ahead against the Bengals in that Super Bowl too? That I think that was a relatively clean game. There wasn't a lot of flags in that game, and they missed the flag on I think T. Higgins. He grabbed Jalen Ramsey's face mask or whatever, and that was on a long touchdown. And they didn't call that, but then they're throwing a million flags at the end of the game, when the Rams are driving to go and win it. Now, again, I'm not leaning one way or the other, but I'm just saying, like, that's how people perceive it. They're like, you didn't throw a flag here, but you throw a flag here. You're picking and choosing when you're going to throw penalties. And yeah, I mean, it is a different game. It's very different. I mean, because, when my parents talk about, Lawrence Taylor and, Brady brings up Ronnie Lott. I mean, Ray Lewis I saw play, towards the end of his career, but I didn't get to see his full, career because I was little. The earliest memory I have of watching football was probably 2007, which oddly enough is, the earliest memory I have when it comes to baseball too. So 2007 is really like the earliest year of memories I have when it comes to actually watching sports when I was 7 years old. But, I mean, I agree with what he's saying. It's just I feel like for a lot of people, they're going to look at him and say, well, you're not somebody we want to hear saying that because you benefit from it. I did see, though, how people said even during Brady's playing career, he said the same thing. It's just... But, hey, if you could benefit from it, if you're Tom Brady and you're like, hey, I could get a penalty thrown on this play... I can make my case. You're going to go and do that because you've earned that respect too. Which, I mean, I don't like it. Believe me, I don't like it. I don't like when players are complaining for flags if they don't get it. Even though, like, as fans, we complain if there aren't flags being thrown either. So it's just, Tom Brady's a very polarizing figure, and you either love him or you hate him. So depending on, what team you root for. But, I mean, he's right. I mean, I think when he talks about the coaching's different, I mean, I guess, because there are a lot of bad head coaches in the NFL that shouldn't be head coaches, but there's still some very good ones. I mean, the game has changed. It's very different. I mean, the thing is they emphasize player safety, but, I mean, people talk about, well, they play Thursday night games, they play Monday night games. Now you got a Black Friday game. People complaining about the playing, the playing conditions. The grass versus turf debate. There's a lot of things. And I listen. I don't think he's wrong in what he's saying. I mean, player development. I think it all depends on the situation that you're in too, because I think there's a lot of organizations that still develop players well. I mean, look at some of the quarterbacks. I mean, look at what Patrick Mahomes turned into. I mean, sitting behind Alex Smith and Andy Reid being the coach. But again, Andy Reid's been around for a long time, so I mean, I don't think Tom Brady was, of course, referring to him. I mean, there's other head coaches. Again, there's a lot of head coaches in the NFL right now that should not be head coaches, and they will be gone. But yeah, I mean, I understand where he's coming from. Where he's coming from, So I don't disagree with him, but I do agree with a lot of people when it's like, well, you're someone that benefited from penalties being thrown and things like that. Because yeah, I mean, the roughing the passer is a big thing, unnecessary roughness. Because I mean, you used to be able to do whatever you want to a quarterback. But I remember like that one year with Clay Matthews, where he got it was like 3 weeks in a row. He was getting rough in the passer penalties, or it was like within the first. Well, it was the first 3 weeks, and some of them were ridiculous calls. But I mean, listen, they're trying to make the game safer, but at the same time too, look at how many injuries we've had this year. I mean, it's been awful. This has been one of the worst years when it comes to injuries. So many star players have gotten hurt. So how is it? It doesn't seem like player safety is really working. All these regulations, so I don't know. But again, I don't think he's necessarily wrong in what he's saying. Again, we'll see what the NFL does in the offseason, because I think it's very alarming when you have all these star players getting hurt. And a lot of them are non-contact injuries. So the NFL's got to do something about it. I don't know if they are going to. And I think also, and I've heard them talk about this on the radio too, it's like a lot of people don't trust the officials. That they have they're being told when and where to throw flags. Now, again, I don't want to think that's true, because, I want to be able to just watch the game and enjoy it and not think about like, oh, this game is going to go a certain way. But, yeah, when there are flags that are thrown and aren't thrown, that sometimes the officials really have an impact on the outcome of the game. And I think for the NFL, like they should try to prioritize, improving, how they officiate games, so that this doesn't happen. But it's going to continue to happen. I mean, look at what they did, 10 years ago. The replacement officials. What a disaster that was. That was horrible. I mean, the Hail Mary was the final straw. And that's what brought the regular officials back. But the officials are still bad. And I get it. Like, you're going to miss calls here and there. It's going to happen. But, in these big games, if you let teams play relatively, the whole time, and then all of a sudden you throw a flag at the end of the game when you haven't been throwing flags, yeah, people are going to question that. Because I'll be honest, the last 2 Super Bowls, that's been the case. There have been flags thrown at the end of the game, and the team that won benefited from that. Now, that doesn't mean that they weren't penalties, but, there's some calls you missed. Let them play the whole game. And then in that moment, you decide to throw the flag. And it's like, what I think people are asking for is be more consistent. That's it. That's really what it comes down to, is be consistent. So, but yeah, that's really it when it comes to Tom Brady's remarks. Let me know what you guys think about that. I think he's right in what he's saying, but again, he also benefited from it. So, yeah. So when we come back from our first break of the show, speaking of quarterbacks besides Tom Brady, we are going to talk about quarterbacks that have something to prove down the stretch. We'll go through who was listed in the article, and I'll give you my thoughts on that when we come back from our first break. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about the quarterbacks that have something to prove down the stretch here. So there was an article that came out. There's 9 quarterbacks listed. So we'll go through each one, and I'll give you my thoughts, for each of them. So let's get right into that. For some reason, now the article is not loading, of course. All right, here we go. So 9 quarterbacks were listed. So we got Jared Goff, Will Levis, Sam Howell, Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields, Joshua Dobbs, Tua Tagovailoa, and Kyler Murray. So I guess we'll start with Jared Goff. I mean, I feel like Jared Goff now. This past week against the Bears was not good. I mean, 3 interceptions. I mean, the Lions almost lost that game to the Bears. That was a very ugly game, but you know what? They pulled out the win. And you know what? I feel like Jared Goff has kind of proved himself a lot these last two seasons. I mean, he got traded to the Lions in the Stafford deal, and obviously losing that Super Bowl to the Patriots was bad. I mean, he did not play well in that game. 2019, they missed the playoffs. 2020, they made the playoffs, but they lost in the second round to the Packers. And then he gets traded to the Lions, and it seemed like this was kind of the end for him. But what the Lions have been able to do these last couple of seasons has been unbelievable, and he's been a main part of that. He has played very well these last 2 years with the Lions, and I think he's the franchise quarterback moving forward. He's got a great system that he's in. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, is a great play caller. He's somebody that could get a head coaching job, and he's surrounded by a lot of talent, like he was with the Rams. I mean, now you got Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Last year, I mean, it was completely different. You had Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. Now it's but this year, both of those guys have run the football effectively. Gibbs has really come on strong. He's been playing well. Montgomery, missed some time with injury, but he's back and he's running the football well. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, their rookie tight end's been good this year. They got weapons all over the place, and they have one of the best offensive lines in football. So the Lions have really built something, for their team, and they got one of the top seeds in the NFC right now. They're playing tomorrow. But you know what? I think Jared Goff, they have him at 9, but obviously you want to see what they could do in the playoffs once they get there. Because, listen, their defense has been a problem this year. And, Jared Goff on the road, he hasn't fared well. So we'll see what happens. But for me, I think he's really proved himself. And you know what? Yeah, you always got more to prove. I mean, look at Tom Brady. I mean, he was always trying to prove something, even with the 7 Super Bowls that he has. So, we'll see what happens moving forward. But yeah, Jared Goff, I think he's one of the quarterbacks on this list that has proved himself. So yeah, and then they talk about Will Levis. And at number 8. And yeah, he was pretty good his first 2 starts. They almost beat the Steelers. I mean, the debut was unbelievable. I mean, he was 4 touchdowns against the Falcons. It looked like the Titans, hey, maybe we got something here. Then these last couple of starts haven't been good. I mean, against Tampa Bay, they only put up 6 points, and then they got blown out against the Jags. So yeah, they got to get themselves back on the right track here. Again, it's still early. He does have a big arm, but you know what? I mean, obviously there's going to be growing pains. He's going to be going into what? This is going to be his 5th start. Yeah. So, I mean, it's too soon to tell what they have in Will Levis. But yeah, I mean, we got plenty of games left to see what he's got, and hopefully it goes better than how the last 2 games have gone. So they also have Sam Howell. I mean, I think Washington has something with Sam Howell. He's up there in passing yards. I know the turnovers, that was a problem in the game against the Giants. I mean, 6 turnovers, not all his fault. I mean, the interceptions were bad. And I think he did lose a fumble. He did fumble as well. But I think Washington, has something there. It doesn't help that he's one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. But you know what? I think Washington does have something with him. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, after the season regarding their head coach. Because Ron Rivera, in all likelihood, is probably gone. Do they promote Bieniemy to being the head coach? I don't know, but I think Washington does have something with Sam Howell. But you know what? They got to see. This is technically his 2nd year. I mean, he only started 1 game last year. But you know what? He definitely has shown some flashes this year. So then you got Russell Wilson at 6, and you know what? Russell Wilson has played well this year. I mean, he hasn't been the Russell Wilson from the past where, he was an MVP candidate. But I will say, he has been decent. The Broncos, I mean, they looked like they were done. They were 1-5, but they've won 4 straight. I mean, and they've beaten some good teams. They've beaten the Chiefs. They beat the Bills. I mean, if you want to consider the Bills good, but I mean, I think in Buffalo, still not a lot of people expect them to win that game. They did win that game. And then they beat the Vikings. Everybody talking up Josh Dobbs. They beat Josh Dobbs. They forced 3 turnovers in that game. I mean, the defense has played a lot better. They're forcing turnovers. Now, I mean, it's crazy how this is the same team that, gave up 70 points to the Dolphins. I mean, it's unbelievable. But, I mean, earlier in the season, I mean, they could have started off 2-0. They only lost to the Raiders by 1, and they lost to the Commanders by 2, and they were winning that game. So, if you flip those games, you're looking at a 7-3 record. But you got to give them credit. And, they got the Browns at home, which is going to be tough. But, with the backup quarterback, they can win that game. At Houston's going to be tough, but they could win that. They're at the Chargers. Chargers have a bad defense. At the Lions is going to be tough. Home against the Patriots. Home against the Chargers. At the Raiders. So, I think the Broncos, they can maybe get themselves to 9 wins. And Russell Wilson, again, 19 touchdowns to 4 picks. That's not bad. That's good. That's a good season. So this is going to be a very important stretch because the Broncos can definitely make a run here and possibly get into the playoffs. They can, 100%. I don't know if it's going to happen because it's the AFC is loaded. It's going to be tough, but I think it's definitely possible. So he's another quarterback on this list. So let me get to the top 5. So there's Pickett, Fields, Josh Dobbs, Tua, and then Kyler Murray is number 1. Now I feel like Kenny Pickett and Fields should be up higher. It's interesting that they got Josh Dobbs at 3. I guess, for me, when it comes to Dobbs, I guess it's like, can you prove that you're a starting quarterback? I mean, maybe. But I feel like he's going to be somebody that is going to be a backup. He's proving that he can start. I guess for a team that really that needs like a bridge QB, he could be someone that fills in. And he has done a great job this year. He was good with the Cardinals. I know like towards the end there it got rough. They were getting blown out. But, then you step in to this situation with the Vikings and he's played well. He played his worst game the other day against the Broncos. The interception and, fumbling. That was bad. And that kind of, kind of affected the game because it's kind of the reason they lost is because of the turnovers. I think Kenny Pickett and Justin Fields, they should be more towards the top. Now Matt Canada's gone. And a lot of people are talking about how that is what has held the Steelers back. And Kenny Pickett hasn't been great this year. So now that he's gone and maybe this offense could, be opened up a little bit more, maybe he plays like how he did towards the end of last year. Because he did play well last year. The Steelers almost got in at 9-8, and he was a part of that. So let's see what he is now without Matt Canada. Get the ball to George Pickens, get the ball to Deontay Johnson. Continue to run the ball well with, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. You're getting Freiermuth back at some point. So, let's see what he could do down the stretch here. Justin Fields, same thing. He did play well against the Lions. The Bears right now are in position for the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And I think it's really how Justin Fields plays is really going to determine what the Bears do with that pick. But you know what? You gotta play him you gotta use him the right way. Let him play to his strengths. He ran the ball for over 100 yards. That has to be a part of his game. He's not a pocket passer. Let him move around. Now, obviously, you don't want him to get hurt, but, don't limit him. Let him do what he wants to do. Let him do what he can do. And, yeah, listen, the passing numbers weren't there, but, he had that long touchdown to DJ Moore. So, he's definitely got something to prove. That him and Kenny Pickett, I would probably put those guys at 1 and 2, honestly. You got Tua Tagovailoa. I think, in terms of like the Dolphins as a team as well, it's like go out and beat an elite team. They got the Ravens on their schedule coming up. They did beat them last year. You lost to the Eagles by 2 scores. You almost came back against the Chiefs. You got blown out by Buffalo. Tua's been good this year. Tua's been solid. And he's going to continue to play well. But, once you get to the playoffs and you're playing, these elite teams, you're going to have to really step up. He's going to have to. So that's definitely why they got him at 2. And then at 1 is Kyler Murray. And, yeah, Kyler Murray's got something to prove. Absolutely. I don't know if I'd put him at 1. But, yeah, the Cardinals, they could be saying, maybe we're going to go in a different direction. But you know what? Kyler's played well so far. Still, a little rusty because obviously, recovering from the torn ACL. But, I think he should be the quarterback for the Cardinals. Unless they want to move in a different direction and some team comes in and says, hey, we'll take him, then that's different. But, I think so far Kyler has played well. Obviously the Cardinals, they, lost a tough game against the Texans on Sunday, which I think they could have won, but they fell short. But, we'll see what happens. But, yeah, those are all the quarterbacks that have something to prove. Let me know what you guys think. Which quarterback do you think has the most to prove down the stretch here? So, with that, we are going to take our second break of the show. But before we do that, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we are going to preview the Thanksgiving games. I will give you my picks as of right now. Again, subject to change, but we will go through that when we come back from our second break. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to now preview the Thanksgiving games for tomorrow. We got three of them. We got the Packers at the Lions to start us off. Then we got the Commanders at the Cowboys. And then to cap off the night, a Thanksgiving game that happened in 2014 in San Francisco. This time it'll be in Seattle. And obviously these two teams are completely different players, different coaches. Actually, except Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's still there. Bobby Wagner's still there. We got the 49ers at the Seahawks. And yes, the Seahawks still have Bobby Wagner. Still got Pete Carroll, like I just said. Well, Bobby Wagner left last year to play with the Rams, and he came back. So you got those two guys that are still there. But everybody else, it's pretty much different. So we'll start off with the first game. So right now the Packers are 7.5-point underdogs. The over-under is 47. This game is tough to pick. Well, in terms of like the spread, you look at the stats. I mean, Jordan Love has played better the last couple of weeks. Jared Goff obviously had a rough performance against the Bears, but they were still able to pull out the win. The Lions' offense has been a lot better than Green Bay's. I mean, they're 5th in passing yards per game, rushing yards per game. They're 6th in points per game. Packers are 18th in passing yards per game, 21st in rushing, and 20th in points per game. And it looks like they're going to be without Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon was banged up. Their third-string running back was also on the injury report. He might not be playing. So the Packers might be one-dimensional in this game. Then on the defensive side of the ball, the Packers' defense has been better against the pass, 7th against the pass. The Lions are 17th. But the Packers have been bad against the run. They're 28th against the run. Lions are 5th. And the Packers aren't a good running team. And then in points allowed, the Packers' defense is actually 10th, and the Lions' defense is 22nd. So, listen, Green Bay has played better the last couple of weeks. They did lose a tough game to Pittsburgh. They could have won that game. They did win against the Chargers, but the Chargers have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And now they're going up against the Lions' defense, which isn't the best either. Right now, I have the Lions. And the reason for that is they're coming off of a bad performance against the Bears. The Packers are coming off of a good performance against the Chargers. So you would think that a lot of people are going to say, hey, maybe we take the Packers because the Lions don't have a good defense. And they're playing better. But I'm not so sure. And you know what? What's funny is when it comes to the spread pool, I haven't gotten a Packers game right in weeks. The last time I got a Packers game right when it comes to the spread pool was week 4 against the Lions. Week 4, when the Lions won 34-20. I have not won a Packers game since. I kept picking them. Then the one week I don't pick them, they win. Then I pick them again, they lose and don't cover. And then I don't pick them, and then they win. And now they're playing the Lions, which, again, the last time I got a Packers game right was when they were playing the Lions, and I took the Lions, and the Lions won by 2 scores. So I am going to pick the Lions again and hope for the best. But I'm very worried because of the Lions' defense. But the Lions did not play well offensively against the Bears. I think they'll be more focused for this game. And I think they win by more than 7 points. That's what I'm hoping for. And if I'm wrong, and I could definitely see it being close, but I'm going to take the Lions and lay the points. So let's hope for the best. All right, so now we move on. Another tough game here. You got the Commanders and the Cowboys. All right. So the line has gone up from 10 to 12, which scares me. Well, in my spread pool, it's 10.5. See, here it's, the line opened at, Washington getting 11. Now it's 12. Yeah, it's, I don't know what to do with this game. I've been going back and forth with it because the line is so big. And, 10.5 is a lot of points. Washington actually, in their last 6 games, they're 5-1 against the spread. And let me just make sure I said that correctly. Yeah, so they're 5-1 away against the spread. The Cowboys are 4-0 at home versus the spread. And the Cowboys, they've blown out a lot of teams at home this year. Now, again, bad teams. They blew out the Giants. They blew out the Rams, if you want to consider the Rams a bad team. I think they're just mediocre. They blew out the Jets, who can't score. They blew out the Patriots. That's what concerns me. But you know what? Washington's coming off of a bad game. So you know what? They could definitely they could definitely cover the number. But again, it's 12, and in my spread pool it's 10.5. So I'm really conflicted on what I should do. Right now I have Dallas to win and cover. Obviously I think they're going to win. But last year they didn't cover against the Giants. And I've looked at since I started doing the spread pools, the Cowboys, they haven't covered. They didn't. They flat out lost to the Raiders a couple years ago. Last year they didn't cover against the Giants. They didn't cover against Washington one year when the spread was big. But this year's different, and they are blowing teams out at home. And Sam Howell is one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. And the Cowboys have a defense that could definitely turn the ball over. And I remember a couple years ago, that game against Washington, Heineke was the starter. And Dallas dropped like 56 points against them. Blew them out. So I'm really nervous about this game. I don't know what to do. Because on one hand, Dallas blows teams out, but listen, Washington could definitely cover. So right now, I'm going to keep Dallas subject to change. So then we get into the final game for Thanksgiving here. All right, so it's the Seahawks and the 49ers. So the line has gone up to 7. Seahawks are getting 7. It's a lot. That definitely is a lot of points. But the 49ers, they look like they're back to their old selves. They're healthy. Geno Smith is banged up coming into this game, which I think is going to affect the Seahawks. It looks like they're going to be without Kenneth Walker, so Zach Charbonnet is going to be the lead back. I think the Niners win and they cover. That's the one I have the most confidence in. So, what's going to end up happening is I'll win the first 2 games, and the game that I was most confident in is going to be the game I'm going to end up losing. Because 7 is a lot of points. But you know what? I think with the injuries now to Seattle on their offense, and a team that does struggle to score, in the red zone, and how the 49ers have been playing, I think the 49ers should win and cover. But we'll see what happens. It's a big game. It is a big game, because Seattle is they're 1 game back now in the division. Seattle's coming in at 6-4. Niners are coming in at 7-3. But the Niners are healthy. They look like how they did in the first part of the season. So I think that's what I'm going to roll with. Now, what's bad is it's all the favorites. And you would think at least one underdog is going to cover. So I just have to think, or maybe this is the year that all the favorites cover. I don't know. I still got to think about it. But that's what I have at the moment. So I got the Lions winning and covering, Dallas winning and covering, and the Niners winning and covering. But yeah, it's going to be tough because I could definitely see it. These games are tough this year. They really are. Because Washington in the past, I mean, they went into Dallas on the COVID season and they dropped 40 points against them. Again, but I know it's a different year, but it's, I don't know. We'll see. But the line with Washington and Dallas just keeps going up and up and up, and so I don't know. Maybe Washington loses by 11. Dallas wins maybe 31-20, maybe. Because Dallas beats up on bad teams. They do. They definitely do. But they beat up on teams at home that, the Rams, the 43-20 game, yeah, that was bad because you thought the Rams would put up a better fight, but that wasn't the case. Cowboys are really good at home this year. They are very good at home this year, and that could be the case in this game. So, you might have to pick them, but the Packers have a lot of injuries, so I don't know if I can really, and I think the Lions will play better than how they did on Sunday, and Seattle's dealing with injuries too. So I think I might just stick with what I got, but again, subject to change. I have a whole day to think about this. But again, I take a lot of pride in my Thanksgiving picks because I've done very well on Thanksgiving. Again, except for 1 year where I went 1-2 and I was very mad. But what stinks is, I do very well on Thanksgiving, and then the rest of the games come around and then I do terrible. So, I could go 3-0 this week and think, hey, I'm in a good spot. And then the rest of the games are played and forget it. So, yeah, we'll just have to see. We'll have to see what happens. But, I'm just hoping for good games. It's going to be a fun-filled day. I love Thanksgiving. Might be my favorite holiday, honestly. I don't think it gets the respect that it deserves because people just skip right over it. Halloween hasn't even come around yet, and I'm seeing all the lights getting put up for Christmas in the city, and I'm just like, okay, all right, I guess Thanksgiving just doesn't exist. That's fine. But it's gonna be good. It's it's always a good holiday. See family. So I'm looking forward to it. And food, family, and football. That's how I look at it. It's gonna be a fun day. Just hope and it'll be even better when I go 3-0, because whatever game I lose, I get so mad because the Giants, I picked against them, my team, I picked the Cowboys to win and cover, and then the Giants, with 10 seconds left, they scored that touchdown and they ended up covering, and I ended up going 2-1 again. So I'm hoping that that's not the case this year. We go 3-0. Because, then you got to wait a whole year to, try to go 3-0 again. So, we'll just have to see. So, with that, we are going to take our final break of the show. Let me know what you guys think. Who you guys having? Who do you guys have winning these games? I don't know why I always say that. But yeah, how do you think these games will go? So, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, with that, we'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, we will preview the rest of the games for this weekend. And that'll be it. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to now preview the rest of the games for this weekend. We'll start off with the Black Friday game, Dolphins at the Jets. The Jets are a 10-point underdog at home against the Dolphins. Tim Boyle is going to be getting the start. Jets look like they just mailed it in. I mean, especially after the performance against the Bills. It wasn't good. I mean, the Dolphins, I think, win this game, but I don't know. I feel like this game could be close. Because I feel like everyone's just going to ride the Dolphins. Jets got nothing to play for. They're at home. Maybe they move the offense. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's Tim Boyle. I mean, I don't know. Like, people are like, oh, maybe Tim Boyle could be. It's like, Tim Boyle's not good. None of these quarterbacks that they have on their roster, besides Aaron Rodgers when he's healthy, are good. So I don't really know. But, I mean, 10 is a lot of points. And I think in the spread pool, my spread pool, right now it's at 9.5. I might ride it. I might ride out the Jets here. They keep it close with their defense. Maybe they move the ball a little bit better with Tim Boyle. Because I look at it this way. I think anything is better than Zach Wilson. Which, you know, I mean, there might be somebody out there that's worse than Zach Wilson, but yeah, Zach Wilson just is bad. And I don't know, maybe they play better, they keep it close, they force turnovers. I don't know. But I think the Dolphins probably still win this game. So right now I'm leaning towards taking the Jets because that's a lot of points. But I don't know. Dolphins could blow them out. We'll see. But I have the Dolphins winning. So then we got the Steelers and the Bengals. Right now the Bengals are 1-point underdogs at home. No Joe Burrow. I like the Steelers to bounce back here. Supposedly it's going to snow, so that could be a ground game. Steelers have been running the football better. New offensive coordinator. So, you know, we'll see. But I like the Steelers to bounce back here. And then you got the Giants and the Patriots. Giants are 3-point underdogs. Patriots coming off of a bye. Tommy DeVito throwing 3 touchdowns last week against Washington. Or this past week, whatever you want to say. I like the Giants to cover, and you know what? I think the Giants win here. The Patriots, coming off of a bye, I mean, we'll see how they come out. But, you know, I have more confidence in the Giants covering than I do them winning. But I think the Giants win here. I don't know what the Patriots could be switching back and forth between quarterbacks. So I don't know what the story is with that. They're a mess right now. I mean, the Giants are a mess too. But, you know, hey, at least they won. But I like the Giants to cover. And I think, you know what, maybe they get another win here. So then we got the Falcons and the Saints. Right now it's a pick 'em. Desmond Ridder is going to start. And look, what's going to happen is I'll take the Falcons and the Saints are going to win. I'm not picking the Saints. I'm not doing it. I'm taking the Falcons. I can't. I keep giving the Saints second, third, fourth chances. And the Falcons right now, I mean, they've lost now 3 straight games. They're due for a win. They get it here. They win. And if they don't win, again, who's winning this division? Seriously. Well, I mean, if they do win, I mean, then the Saints are 5-6. They're 5-6. And if the Bucks win, they're 5-6. So, but I'm going to take the Falcons here. Texans and the Jags. Texans are 1.5-point underdogs. Jags coming in at 7-3. I'm going to take the Texans. Jags, I know they got killed by the Texans earlier in the season. But C.J. Stroud is playing really good football right now. The Jags, you know, they had that great. They played well against the Titans, but it's the Titans. You know, and they already lost to the Texans. It's a home game. That crowd is going to be going crazy. I'll ride the Texans here, but I'll probably be wrong. So then we move on to the Colts and the Bucks. Colts are 5-5. Bucks are getting 2.5. I think this is the week the Bucks finally get a win. Actually, I shouldn't say that because they did beat the Titans a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I mean They are so they after their 3-1 start, they have gone 1-5 in their last 6 games. That's terrible. I think they get a win here. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. But I'll take the Bucks here, and they go to 5-6. Colts will drop to 5-6 if that's the case. Then we got the Titans and the Panthers. You got Bryce Young and Will Levis, 2 rookie quarterbacks going at it. Titans are 3.5-point favorites at home. Panthers can't score. Titans, they're due for a win. Give me the Titans. But we'll see. Could this be a game where Bryce Young finally does good? I don't know. We'll see. And it's crazy how they beat the Texans. And I actually did get that game right. I picked the Panthers with the points, but I just didn't expect it. But yeah, I'll take the Titans here. I'll lay the 3.5. Then we got the Cardinals and the Rams. Right now, that's a pick 'em. It was the Rams were 2.5-point favorites, but now it went down to a pick 'em. And the Rams usually beat the Cardinals. I don't know. I got to this one I got to think about a little bit more. I think I have the Rams right now, but that could change. We'll see if also, it's all gonna come down to also Cooper Kupp's health too. I think because if he doesn't play, that definitely helps the Cardinals, of course, because he always kills them. So right now, I think, who do I have right now? I have the Rams. So, but I could change that. Then we got the Browns and the Broncos. Browns are 2.5-point underdogs coming in at 7-3. Broncos 5-5. Big win over the Vikings. I like the Broncos to continue this trend. I like them to win this game. Going up against a rookie quarterback, their defense has been playing better. Russell Wilson, we talked about him before. He hasn't been bad this year. I like them to continue their winning streak. Now, they did beat the Vikings by only a point, so that could happen in this game. And, the Browns have a good defense. So, but you know what? I like the Broncos here. I'm not that confident in it, but I think they continue. I'm going to lean towards taking them this week. So then we move on to the next game. I actually wanted to check something here. So the Chargers were getting 4.5 in the late game, but now it's gone down to 3.5. So I might change that pick, possibly. So you got the Chiefs and the Raiders. Raiders right now 9-point underdogs at home. Chiefs rough loss against the Eagles. No points scored in the second half. Yeah, they've been struggling. And the Raiders, they've been playing better. They only lost to the Dolphins by 7. 9-point underdogs. I don't know. Right now, I like the Chiefs to bounce back here. I think this should be a get-right game for them. This is a team that they've owned. But, the offense hasn't been great recently. So, I don't know. But right now, I'll take the Chiefs to win and cover. Then we got a good game here, Bills and Eagles. Bills are getting 3.5 points. Eagles coming off of that big win against the Chiefs. Listen, the Bills, they got a much-needed win against the Jets. But I look at the Eagles right now as the best team in football. The Bills are dealing with some injuries. I could see Josh Allen turning the ball over because that always happens. Eagles are at home. I think they win and cover. I'm hoping it's a good game, though. But we'll see. But right now I like the Eagles. And we'll see, what happens the rest of the week, how this line moves or not. But I got the Eagles. I'm confident the Eagles will win, but the Bills could definitely keep it close. So we'll see. Then we got the Ravens and the Chargers. The line opened up to 4.5. Now it's down to 3.5. I like the Ravens to win. We'll see where this line moves again throughout the week. Right now I have them in the spread pool. But with the Chargers, they could put up a lot of points at home. They could definitely keep this game close. So I might switch it. Obviously, the Ravens are going to be without Mark Andrews, who actually might be back before the end of the season. So they initially said that it was a season-ending injury, the ankle injury, but supposedly he might be back. So that would be big if they can get him back. But it's right now it says expected return is week 17. And then Odell Beckham Jr. dealing with the shoulder injury. He's questionable for the game. So the Ravens are going to be without some key pieces on offense. But the Chargers defense is just so bad. But listen, like they could put up points, so they could definitely keep it close. And Brandon Staley's on the hot seat right now. The Chargers, they've lost back-to-back heartbreakers. So we'll see what happens this weekend. I might change it. Right now I have the Ravens. I might change it. But that's all the games for this weekend. Actually, we'll run through some of the big games in college football. So Michigan right now, 3.5-point favorites over Ohio State. They're at home. This one's going to be tough. Both really good defenses. I mean, right now, again, I'm not an expert when it comes to college football. I'd take the points. Now, who to win, though, is the question. I'm going to take Ohio State to win. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'll take them to win. There's a lot going on in Michigan right now, as we talked about it yesterday. But yeah, it is rivalry week. I don't know why I keep struggling to say it. Rivalry week. That's what it is this week. I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but I don't know why I'm having so much trouble saying it. But yeah, and then you got Alabama and Auburn. I'm just going at like the bigger games here. They're 14.5-point favorites against Auburn. Auburn 6-5. I mean, Alabama should cover, right? I mean, I would take them to win, 14.5. I mean, some of these, like Tennessee is a 27-point favorite over Vanderbilt. This one's 14.5. Take Alabama to win, of course. But I don't know. The 14.5, is that too much? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. And I know a lot of people are talking about, Florida maybe upsetting Florida State now because Florida State's quarterback is out. Right now they're 6.5-point underdogs. So, yeah, and they're the home team. So, I don't know. We'll see. Georgia's a 24-point favorite against Georgia Tech. I mean, probably take Georgia to win and cover. Then you got North Carolina against North Carolina State. North Carolina State is a 2.5-point underdog. Yeah, that one looks like that's a tough game. I mean, maybe you take UNC, maybe. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there, but yeah, throw a little bit of college in there, because big week for college football as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think about the games this weekend for Thanksgiving. I wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving. I hope whatever you all are doing, enjoy it with your family. A lot to be thankful for. And yeah, I will see you guys on Monday. So that is all the time that we have for today. I thank you guys for tuning in. Again, I wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Like I just said, enjoy it. No show tomorrow, no show Friday. We'll be back on Monday. So until then, take care, enjoy the games, and happy Thanksgiving.